this is really cool, knowing the history about it. So they all lifted it up. And let me tell you, they were huffing and puffing. This was extremely heavy. And they got it around the corner, and then it bumped into my lemon tree. And here's my son knocking off leaves and limbs, trying to make a way, parting the Red Sea and opening the doors. And here this chariot rolls into my house, and my heart sank thinking, what have I done? Because I'll have to be here for the rest of my life looking at this piece right in the middle of the room. But you know me, I'll make it work. I'm Cynthia Lazaris, and I collect wax. I love everything rare, weird, and wonderful. I have been spending my entire life traversing swap meets, garage sales, and auctions looking for the newest piece to add to my collection. You look around the room, there's a little bit of everything. Join me on my journey to find the weird and the wonderful. Ben-Hur, the movie. It started filming May of 1958 and it wrapped on January 1959. It was a $15 million budget. It had a 9-minute action-packed chariot scene that just was cinema's most exciting scene. If you could just imagine being there at that moment when it was being filmed, with all the accidents and all the fun things that happened during it too, that was a happy mistake that was iconic to the film today. And it won 11 Academy Awards. And can you believe it? It's here in my family room as you see it today. Back in 1990s, when Debbie Reynolds was at the Paddle Wheel in Las Vegas building her museum, she wanted to have certain things from the movies out in the lobby to get people to come in to her museum. And it had to have that wow factor, something that you could walk up and say, wow, that's a so-and-so from that movie. And so it had to be something very exciting. So Debbie Reynolds had quite a bit of memorabilia from Ben-Hur. And she pulled all those pieces together and she built a ticket booth. That's what you're looking at. This was out in the lobby at Las Vegas, and people could come up and they could either buy tickets or maybe they would be able to book a show. And let me tell you, as per Debbie, this is what is original to this piece, to this chariot. Now Debbie had pulled these two screen used from Ben-Hur emblems from her stash of all of her items that she had collected from the MGM auction, and she had these applied on it. And if you look, these wheels are authentic to the movie Ben-Hur. They were pulled from the screen used props that were used. The wheels alone weigh several hundred pounds. In fact, the whole thing overall is close to 1,000 pounds. Now, Debbie had someone from the movie industry build this and make it look exactly how it was, but into a ticket booth. So it kind of extended out, and it had a stairway that you could walk up into side of it, and it was carpeted, and it has a desk inside of it. And this was used at the Paddle Wheel in Las Vegas, and I'm sure Debbie was inside of it, conducting some of her business and making sure that all the tickets were sold. How did this all happen? How did I end up with this chariot in my family room? Let's go back in time. Let's go back to early 1970s when the MGM auction happened. Now, I was back in high school in those days, and my mind wasn't really going towards collecting. A lot of people weren't collecting back then, which is what made this possible for Debbie. Otherwise, she would have been up against some high-end collectors as it's happened today. But back in those days, people really didn't find any value. They didn't attach themselves to collecting like they do today. Debbie Reynolds was there at the auction, and she was trying to buy up as much as she could because she recognized the historical value of collecting all of these items from the movies, the most famous movies around, and collecting them and having them be preserved so other people could enjoy them and have them put into a museum. So she collected quite a few pieces that were screen used from Ben-Hur, and she tried to hang on to them. There's so many things that transpired during that time where she had to have them warehoused, she had to borrow money, she had to do a lot of things just to make sure that these pieces stayed around. Now, towards the end of her life, she recognized that time's up. I have to make sure that I can hang on to some of the pieces that I want, but some of the pieces have to go. And so there were several auctions where Debbie Reynolds did attend. Now, what was interesting, and this is what's funny, and this is after I had got this piece behind me, the Ben-Hur set. We were watching the show Bright Lights, which is about Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds, and we were watching the part when it came up to where she had to auction off some of her pieces, and she wasn't real happy about it. I mean, she was happy for the people that got it, but it was very sad. It was a bittersweet for her. And so we looked and we saw the auctioneer standing inside this chariot, and he was auctioning off the most iconic pieces of film history. Marilyn Monroe's dress, Charlie Chaplin's hat, I mean, the list goes on. And he stood up here and had his gavel and said sold to some of the most fantastic pieces you could ever imagine. First of all, my son had bought the Jimmy Stewart set, which is the wax figure from Movieland Wax Museum, and he wanted to get it. And the person that we were buying this all from had this piece. And he had offered me this piece, but I thought, there's no way that this is going to fit into my house, so I'm going to have to pass on it. Well, what had happened is when my son went to go pick up the wax figure, there was another person that had wanted to buy this. He didn't exactly pay for it, but he said that he wanted it and get it ready. So this isn't something that you just kind of just push. I mean, it takes about 8 to 10 people to get it moved because you have to take the wheels off, there's an axle involved, and so this was pushed up in front of the wax figure that we were going to get, so it blocked the doorway. So we thought, oh my gosh, weeks had gone by, and what are we going to do? We want our wax figure, so we ended up saying, we'll buy the chariot. So then we could get the chariot out, and then we could get our wax figure that was behind it. Oh my gosh, I couldn't sleep the night before that I knew this was going to be coming into the house. Now, I really wanted to put this in my living room in the wax museum, but this was not going to work because it's too wide. It would never make it down my hallway. So the only place that I had that I could put this in, and it just does not really fit with the decor at all, is in my family room, which is next to the kitchen, and I have these great big French doors that open up pretty wide. We measured how wide it was going to be without the wheels, and it would just barely make it through. So we didn't really, since we're on a budget and we really can't be hiring people to move things for us, we do all of our own moving. We had to ask people at the last minute, some friends, neighbors, to all come over. They didn't know what they were doing. Some of them haven't even been inside my house. They probably thought I'm just the crazy person that lives on the corner. So anyways, they all met over at 10 o'clock in the morning, and they came outside and they saw the chariot. And they were getting excited, and they thought, wow, this is really cool, knowing the history about it. So they all lifted it up. And let me tell you, they were huffing and puffing. This was extremely heavy. And they got it around the corner, and then it bumped into my lemon tree, and here's my son knocking off leaves and limbs, trying to make a way, parting the Red Sea and opening the doors, and here this chariot rolls into my house, and my heart sank thinking, what have I done? Because I'll have to be here for the rest of my life looking at this piece right in the middle of the room. But you know me, I'll make it work. So they brought it in and they put it in against the wall. I mean, I've had to move a lot of furniture to be able to get this piece in. And there it was, the chariot from Ben-Hur in my family room. Can you imagine this? And so my son said, we got to have something in the back of it that's going to look really great. What are we going to do? Are we going to have curtains? Are we going to have, maybe we need to get some other props from Ben-Hur. What do we do? So he looked online on eBay and he found this fantastic poster that was released in 1969, which is 10 years after the movie was released. And he paid not very much for it, and it was really a great buy. And so, and then he was able to put the border all around it, and we used kind of like the same look, little rivets all the way around it, and he sprayed some gold so it would kind of match the chariot. And here it is, and then I've got a light inside of it, inside the chariot, so it shines right on this poster, and it makes it look like, wow, as soon as you walk in the door, even though I have the wax figures in the front room, you can see all the way down the hall, and you can see the big gold and white, the chariot, and you can see the poster, so it's pretty exciting. And I don't know, you know, it's funny how things work out in life, and that's what I'm saying is you never know what's around the corner. So I wanted to tell you an interesting story and how this is all working and is swirling out in the universe. Okay, here we were trying to get the Jimmy Stewart figure. The Ben-Hur chariot comes up. You know, I happened to be watching Bright Lights and I saw the chariot being used in the auction itself and being auctioned off. Having a close friend ask me if I would like this chariot. And then this is really the crazy part at the end. I have a friend, Tom Fowler. He's a wax restoration artist and sculptor, as I told you before in my previous videos. And he was able to come into something that is just so wonderful and unbelievable. Logan Fleming, which was a sculptor at Movie Land, and he did all the wonderful pieces that were so realistic. And I mean, it's the ones where you had to do that double take because you weren't sure if you were looking at the real person, the real celebrity, or was this a wax figure. He was able to come into some of his pieces, some of his historical pieces. And one of them is what you're looking at right now, is the wax pool. What is a wax pool? It's the wax that's been put into the mold. It's blank, but it resembles the star of which mold it is. And this one is Debbie Reynolds. So he was able to come across several of these Debbie Reynolds, and she's from The Singing Nun, and she's on her little Vespa, and she's in her nun habit. But he has all of these wax pools from this piece, and they were in the estate of Logan Fleming. And also what's very interesting is here I'm going to be getting a Debbie Reynolds mold, and he's going to be doing her face, and I'll be able to have her in a glass case. So Debbie will be reunited again with her chariot, just as she had it. So anyways, I just wanted to let you know that this is what's going on in the world. It's just kind of crazy and chaotic at times, but this is my world, and welcome to it.